Okay, what's up YouTube? This is J-Man Time, and today I have another video on a surviving warship for you guys today. Today's video is on the rarest / last warships of the old German Navy of the First World War. In particular, the old German Navy of East Africa. Most people don't know it, but during the First World War, Germany actually did have overseas colonies in Africa. They controlled what was known as German East Africa and German West Africa and German Southwest Africa. The ship today that we'll be talking about is the Graf von Götzen, the last of Kaiser Wilhelm's gunboats, and also the last German heavy warship that is still around to this very day. The Graf von Götzen was an auxiliary gunboat that was built between 1913 and 1915. The ship was launched officially in February 1915. The Graf von Götzen had a displacement of 1,575 tons. The ships had a main armament of one 105mm gun or one 4-inch gun, one 88mm / 3.5-inch secondary gun, and two 37mm German copies of the Hotchkiss Model 1880 revolving autocannons, also known as the Maxim revolving cannons. These were German copies of the French Hotchkiss revolving cannon. The ship's speed was 11 knots or 20 kilometers per hour, and the ship was propelled by two triple expansion steam engines. These were later replaced in 1970 with two diesel engines. The ship had a crew of between 50, but could also have a crew of upwards to 300, as she also doubled as a passenger ship or ferry ship. The Graf von Götzen is most famously known for its participation in the largest naval battle that happened in Africa during World War I, also known as the Battle of Lake Tanganyika in 1916, or late 1915 to early 1916. The Battle of Lake Tanganyika was fought between the 26th of December 1915 until July 1916. Now, during the battle, the Germans were fighting two different forces. They were fighting the British Army, the British Navy, and they were also fighting the Belgian Navy of the Belgian Congo. The British Navy consisted of two armed steamers and three armed motor torpedo boats that were converted into motor gunboats, while the Belgians were armed with one armed steamer, one armed heavy boat, one armed barge, one armed whaler, and two armed motor torpedo boats that were also converted into motor gunboats. The flagship of the Belgian Navy was the Belgian torpedo boat Netta, and the flagship of the British Navy was the motor torpedo boat HMS Mimi. During the Battle of Lake Tanganyika, the British had managed to capture the German warship, the SMS Kagani. Keep in mind, the German Navy during this time had three main warships. They had the SMS Graf von Götzen. They also had the secondary ship, the Hedwig von Weissmann, which was a secondary gunboat. And they also had the gunboat Kagani, which was the smallest of the three. They also had armed dhows, which were a type of fishing vessel that was used on the lake by both sides. But the Germans had riflemen sitting in their dhows. These dhows were pretty much steel or cast iron canoes that were used to traverse the lakes, and the Germans would have riflemen. They would have indigenous riflemen in these canoes at night and in the daytime. The Germans also had shore batteries. They were mounting various guns from 7.92mm machine guns upward to 105mm guns. These were guns that were actually salvaged from a German light cruiser, the SMS Kongsberg, which had been sunk a year earlier in 1915. During the battle, the British had managed to capture the gunboat Kagani, and they had sunk the Hedwig von Weissmann. The Hedwig von Weissmann was sunk by gunfire. During the battle, the Germans eventually lost control of the coastal areas. The Germans were based out of a town known as Kagoma, which actually sits on the lake Tanganyika, and during the battle they had lost control of the town of Goma. Eventually, the Germans decided to scuttle the SMS Graf von Götzen, but before doing that, they took all of their weapons with them, including all of Graf von Götzen's main armaments. Later on, after World War I, in 1927, both the British and the Belgians decided to raise the Graf von Götzen along with other vessels that had been sunk during the war. These vessels were all converted into passenger ferry ships where they served pretty much to this very day, or at least the Graf von Götzen serves to this very day in some capacity. The Graf von Götzen was salvaged, most of her armaments were removed with the exception of 2 machine guns, and she was renamed the MV Liemba. The MV Liemba would serve as a major cargo ship on Lake Tanganyika for the next 100 plus years. And as of 2018-2019, the MV Liemba is still serving to this day. She is literally the last of Kaiser Wilhelm II's East German Navy. She is the last warship for the Imperial German Navy, as a whole. She is the last warship from World War I that is still being used in some capacity that dates back to the old Navy of the Kaiser. She is literally a living fossil in the 21st century. As of 2018-2019, the Tanzanian government is trying to figure out what to do with her. She's getting to the point where she is unusable, but she is still one of the largest cargo ships on the lake. So between 2021 and 2025, the Tanzanian government plans to eventually replace the MV Liemba / Graf von Götzen. But what should they do with her afterwards? Me personally, I think they should preserve her as a museum ship. They should also preserve the ship as a functioning museum ship. There are plenty of old ships like the Graf von Götzen / MV Liemba that are still being used as passenger ships, but are also museum ships themselves. You see a lot of these in Europe. So I honestly think the MV Liemba should be maintained in that configuration. If not, I think she probably should be sent back to Germany ultimately. I mean, yeah, she is part of Tanzania's history, but if Tanzania don't have any use for her, then I fear that she might end up being scrapped or scuttled. And I would rather have the ship survive as a museum ship in some capacity, even if she's not being used. But it would be better if the ship serves as a functioning museum ship, at least for another 20 to 40 years, at least make it past the year 2027. So it would be 100 years since the ship has been in service as a cargo ship in Tanzania. And it would also be more than 100 years. The ship was laid down in 1913. I mean, the ship is already like 106 years old now as of the time of this video. So she is literally the last of the German Navy of the First World War. She is also one of the only ships in World War I that is still in service in some capacity, even though she's not being used as a military vessel. So what do you think of the MV Liemba / the SMS Graf von Götzen? Please tell me in the comment section below, and until next time, this was J-Man Time, signing off.
Wie oft sind wir geschritten auf schmalem Negerpfad, wohl durch das Schäppelbieten, wenn früh der Morgen naht. Wie lauschen wir dem Klange, dem altvertrauten Sange, der Träger und das Kari, Heia Safari! Steil über Berg und Klüf